about Jesus and about being saved, and you can see and hear and enjoy me on swordbox.org as often as you want to, because I'll be coming on telling the story from time to time. And you can let other people know Brother Bob, the chaplain of Bourbon Street, is on the tube, and you can pick him up.
Mackie talks today about hitting rock bottom as we continue our series on Samson. Our verse for today is found in Psalm 38:15. Lord, I wait for you. You will answer, Lord my God.
Welcome back. Today and tomorrow we're going to finish our story of Samson. And boy, what a story it's been. We've seen God's supernatural power and work through this man. He's won every battle he's been in, and no one has been able to stop him. And then we see Samson's appetite for women and how it takes a priority in his life over his purpose and calling of God. He gave his strength over to women who eventually betrayed him into the hands of the Philistines. Now we see Samson, this strong man, as weak and defeated. Now he grinds in the prison of the Philistines without his eyes. His eyes have been gouged out, and the Lord has departed from him. Have you ever hit rock bottom? Sin will always take us further than we intended to go, and it will always keep us longer than we intended to stay, and the price tag will always be more than we ever expected to pay. Losing everything is often what it takes for us to realize what we had, to realize what we've done, and to see life from a godly perspective. Unfortunately, that's what it takes for many of us. It's what happened to the rebellious son in Jesus' parable of the prodigal. Until he was as low as he could be, had wasted everything, had lost everything, and was suffering, he had just continued to live for himself, indulge in lust and his fleshly desires. But when he longed to fill his stomach with the food that the swine were eating, and yet had nothing, then he came to himself. No doubt Samson has hit rock bottom. He's imprisoned by his enemy. Judges 16:22 says, however, the hair of his head began to grow again, after it had been shaven. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to rejoice. Now Dagon was a sea god. He was an idol with the head of a man and the body of a fish. And they said, our God has delivered into our hands Samson, our enemy. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God has delivered into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, and the multiplier of our dead. So it happened when their hearts were merry, that they said, call for Samson, that he may perform for us. So they called Samson from the prison, and he performed for them, and they stationed him between the two pillars. And I believe as time passed, Samson's hair began to grow. It also symbolized that Samson was repentant for what he had done. On top of all that has happened, now they're bringing Samson out for entertainment. What humiliation. As I was thinking about what might be going through Samson's mind, of course, the Bible really doesn't tell us, thinking about times in my own life where I hit rock bottom. I came across Psalm 38. So many of these words that King David wrote, I think are so fitting here where Samson's at. It's the things I want you to think about as I read through this psalm. I want you to think about the acknowledgement of personal responsibility for sin. It's critical. The heavy burden that sin put on his heart and the anguish over it, and the suffering and pain that David was experiencing, not only because of his sin, but because of the enemy. And then David's acknowledgement of human weakness. He was unable to change things himself. And then his acknowledgement of how strong the enemy was in comparison to him. But then ultimately, his plea to God for help, believing that God was more than enough to help him. Psalm 38, a psalm of David to bring remembrance. O Lord, do not rebuke me in your wrath, nor chasten me in your hot displeasure. For your arrows pierce me deeply, and your hand presses me down. There is no soundness in my flesh because of your anger, nor any health in my bones because of my sin. For my iniquities have gone over my head. Like a heavy burden, they are too heavy for me. My wounds are foul and festering because of my foolishness. I am troubled and bowed down greatly. I go mourning all the day. My loins are full of inflammation, and there is no soundness in my flesh. I am feeble and severely broken. I groan because of the turmoil in my heart. Lord, all my desire is before you, and my sighing is not hidden from you. My heart pants, my strength fails me. As for the light of my eyes, it also has gone out from me. Man, this seems like this is something Samson was writing. My loved ones and my friends stand aloof from my plague, and my relatives stand afar off. Those who also seek my life lay snares for me. Those who seek my hurt speak of destruction and plan deception all the day. But I, like a deaf man, do not hear, and I, like a mute who does not open his mouth. Thus I am like a man who does not hear, and in whose mouth there is no response. For in you, Lord, I hope. You will hear, O Lord my God. For I said, hear me, lest they rejoice over me, lest when my foot slips, they exalt themselves against me. For I am ready to fall, and my sorrow is continually before me. For I will declare my iniquity. I will be in anguish over my sin. But my enemies are vigorous, and they are strong, and those who hate me wrongfully have multiplied. Those also who render evil for good, they are my adversaries, because I follow what is good. Do not forsake me, O Lord. O my God, be not far from me. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. God bless you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.